Welcome, fans, friends, and trolls alike. I'm that Southern critic, Cat09. It's astounding. Time is fleeting. The old year ends today. But let's not panic.
Pikachu, Pika, Pika!
Time to start anew. Let us now rewind back to the timeline and see where it all began. The months of the old year force their time through the ages. Let's see the year in review. Let's see the year in review. We do it month by month. They cover all the major events, from sports to politics. With enough in the United States, or for the rest of the world, we'll cover those events as well. Here's the year in review. Here's the year in review. January begins with the Syrian War still going strong as Latvia became the 18th country to be accepted into the European Union. Also, there's Christians and natives being slayed in Syria at this time, and still to this day. And at the end of the month, the polar vortex shut down most of the country, with the south being the most affected with the snowocalypse. To be fair, the most recent projections we had at the time showed everything to be farther south, so that's where we sent all of our snow gear. Mother Nature basically said no and sent it back north. We go to February, where during the Super Bowl, Coke released the controversial multi-language commercial with America the Beautiful, and the Winter Olympics started at this time. And once again, the polar vortex struck again in the US. The battles continued to rage in the Middle East, and two big stars died: Philip Seymour Hoffman and Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple was responsible for brightening everybody's mood during the Great Depression, and Seymour Hoffman died via drug overdose. Here's the year in review. Here's the year in review. In March, Russia invaded the Crimea, which is part of Ukraine, straining relations with the US. The airplane Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanishes during this time. This is also when relations between the US and Syria became strained. This is also when the UN's Children Fund reported the outbreak of Ebola with Southern Guinea and begins the spread to Liberia. Also, Mick Jagger's girlfriend died, which postponed their tour through Australia and New Zealand. How did you get that? April continues the outbreak coverage of Ebola and Fort Hood shooting during this time. Relations between Ukraine and Russia continue to be stressed, and a ferry in South Korea capsized. And the copies of the legendary E.T. video game were discovered, and one of the last silent movie actors, Mickey Rooney, died, as well as the Ultimate Warrior. April had the Heartbleed bug appear on the internet. It was so bad that Chrome created an app which told you which sites had it. Here's the year in review. Here's the year in review. In May, 203 schoolgirls were kidnapped from Nigeria, and California faced deadly wildfires during this time. Mariam Yahia Ibram Ishag, apologies for butchering the name, was given 100 lashes and sentenced to death because she refused to renounce her Christianity. And this month, Maya Angelou died at 86. This month also marked the beginning of the show, and during finals week, we had tornadoes. Yeah, Mother Nature did not want that semester to happen. In June, Brady Bunch housekeeper Ann B. Davis dies at 88, and original voice of Shaggy, Casey Kasem, died as well. And the Beastie Boys won a $1.7 million copyright lawsuit against Monster Energy. The singing nun Christina Sucia wins the 7th season of The Voice of Italy, and the 2014 World Cup began in Brazil, as well as the San Antonio Spurs winning the NBA Finals. And I was there to hear the entire city go wild. I couldn't sleep for hours. Hey! Here's the year in review. Here's the year in review. Typhoon Neogiri slamming into southern Japan, and Germany won the World Cup. And another Malaysia flight went down this time by a missile. Ebola continues to escalate in deaths, and previous conflicts continue to rage.
Yeah, they're still raging if I remember correctly.
August continues the rising fear of Ebola, and it's during this time that Michael Brown was shot and killed by Officer Wilson and the Ferguson protests began. It was one day later that we received word of Robin Williams' suicide.
Yeah, it was hard to watch any of his works after that.
Basically, this month revolved around the protests of Michael Brown as Ferguson went under a state of emergency and the protests turned violent.
This was also the first time I've seen social media blow up this emotionally.
Here's the year in review. Here's the year in review.
September had the death of Joan Rivers and CVS announcing they will stop selling tobacco products. Serena Williams won the US Open and the video of Ray Rice was released to the NFL.
I still say he needs to be fired from the NFL.
October had the news of net neutrality being threatened as a new virus, the Introvirus 68, claimed its first victim. This also had the protests in Hong Kong beginning. This was also when Ebola appeared here in the US, setting off panic in everyone. The Dow dropped during this time, virtually erasing any gains made so far in the year. The White House jumper also happened here.
This was also when I uploaded my Twilight review, only for it to be taken down 2 days later.
Here's the year in review. Here's the year in review.
November had the opening of the One World Trade Center and the Republicans retaking the House and Senate. They sued Obama later within this month. However, the big event from this month was the grand jury ruling not to indict Officer Wilson, and outrage floods the protesters.
This was also when the hashtag Black Lives Matter was trending on Twitter and Officer Wilson resigned from the force. What smells like fried turkey?
We finally come to December, where the protests for Michael Brown and Eric Garner spread to other cities in the US. And once again, the government almost shut down because Congress couldn't get its act together. In sports, the first American football college playoffs have the first team set to play. A gunman stormed in Sydney, Australia and placed a cafe on lockdown as he takes 17 people hostage. Crude oil prices dropped for the first time since 2009, causing the US economy to improve. There was the Peshawar school attack where 145 people were killed, 132 of them being children. Since then, Pakistan has granted their military the right to kill anybody with a history of terrorism or a convicted terrorist.
The Southeast suffered another tornado outbreak 2 days before Christmas, and at the time of this recording, a third Asian Airlines plane has gone missing. We won't receive any more information until probably 2015.
There's the year in review. There's the year in review.
We did it month by month.
I covered all major topics
From sports to politics.
within the 50 United States, so we can tell the year. So long we won't see you ever again. Here's to a brand new year. Here's to a brand new year.
Well, that's all the time I have for today, so let me wander over yonder, and I'll see all y'all next year. Happy New Year, everybody!